You're listening to AI Podcasts. I'm Daniel, and with me is Lena. Today, we're unpacking an ACL 2025 paper titled CONFETTI, Conversational Function Calling Evaluation Through Turn-Level Interactions. It comes from AI Labs at Amazon and is led by Tamer Alkhouli. Short version first. The authors built a human-written, multi-turn benchmark to test how well language models decide when to call tools and how to fill those calls during realistic conversations. Even strong models only get it right around a third to about 40% of the time, and performance drops as conversations get longer, the number of available tools grows, or the task needs multiple calls in sequence.
Thanks, Daniel. That sets the stage. Just to be sure, this is about models acting like assistants that can call APIs while they talk, right?
Exactly. Think of work settings like travel booking, calendars, HR systems, or issue trackers. The core question is simple. At each moment in a dialogue, should the model call a tool? Which tool should it call? And with what arguments? And if a tool call isn't the right move, can it ask a clarifying question or give a direct answer instead?
Right? So who are the authors again, and where are they based?
The paper is led by Tamer Alkhouli at Amazon's AI Labs, with collaborators across the same organization. The email addresses and project links in the paper point to Amazon.
Got it. What was missing in the field that pushed them to create this benchmark?
Evaluation has lagged behind real conversational messiness. Some tests use user simulators, which adds flexibility, but can hide a model's true behavior behind simulator quirks. Others lock models into a single scripted path that punishes reasonable deviations. And many prior data sets focus on single turns or a narrow set of domains. The authors argue for turn-by-turn evaluation inside human-authored multi-turn conversations, so we can judge each decision in context.
Makes sense. What does CONFETTI actually contain?
CONFETTI has just over 100 human-authored conversations covering dozens of APIs across domains like travel, meetings, HR, and issue tracking. The dialogues include follow-ups, confirmations, ambiguous or shifting goals, and cases where a user gives too few or too many details. Each agent turn is labeled with a dialogue act, so the benchmark can also score response quality when a tool call isn't appropriate.
And how do they score whether a function call is correct?
They compare the predicted tool name and its arguments against the goal reference using a structured check rather than simple text matching. They also judge whether each argument is grounded in the conversation. For response quality, they use dialogue act labels to see if the agent should have asked a question, provided information, refused, or called a function. The evaluation is off policy, which means every decision is graded with the correct conversation history up to that point.
Quick check on that off-policy piece. In plain language, it means we grade one step at a time using the clean history, even if the model would have made mistakes earlier. Is that right?
That's right. It isolates the decision at each turn and makes comparisons fair and reproducible. The trade-off is that it is not a full closed-loop agent that lives with its own mistakes. Also, function calls are not executed live. The results are looked up from the gold conversations, so you avoid network noise, but you also don't see real-world errors like timeouts or permission issues.
Okay. Which models did they evaluate and what happened?
They tested a representative set of current models. On the core turn-level function calling metric, Nova Pro leads at about 40%, followed by Claude Sonnet 3.5 in the mid-30s, and Llama 3.1 405B a bit lower. Command R Plus and Mistral Large also appear in the results. The short version is that tool selection and argument filling remain error-prone under realistic conversational pressure.
And when the toolbox gets crowded?
Accuracy drops as the number of available APIs grows. With many similar tools to choose from, models are more likely to pick the wrong one or misread the schema. Longer conversations also hurt. Bigger models hold up better, but the trend is still downward.
You mentioned chains of actions. How tough are those?
Very tough. When a task needs 2 or more calls in sequence, success falls sharply. Planning and executing multi-step tool use in conversation is still a major open challenge.
What about deciding whether to call a tool at all versus asking a question?
On the response quality side, one of the stronger models leads with results in the low 70s. A common failure mode shows up across models, over-triggering function calls when a clarifying question would have been better. There is also some under-triggering in the other direction, where a model explains instead of actually calling the tool.
And the argument grounding check you mentioned earlier?
The authors use lightweight LLM-based judges to flag unsupported parameters, and the best models are still short of the gold reference. That means models sometimes fill in dates, locations, or identifiers that the user never provided. It is better than guessing wildly, but there is clear room to improve grounding.
Let's talk caveats. Anything we should be cautious about when reading the numbers?
A few things. Sample sizes are smaller at the extremes, like the longest conversations, the biggest tool sets, and the longest chains. The off-policy setup makes later turns a bit easier than in a live agent. And because there is no live API execution, we do not see operational issues. Finally, parts of the scoring rely on model judges, which are practical at scale but can still introduce bias.
So how should teams actually use Confetti?
Use it as a diagnostic. It separates two questions. First, should the agent call a tool at all? Second, if it should, did it pick the right tool with the right arguments? It also pressures agents with real conversation patterns like follow-ups and ambiguous goals, which helps you see exactly where things go off the rails.
If you were extending the benchmark, what would you add?
I would pair this turn-level track with a closed-loop track where the agent runs end-to-end and has to recover from its own mistakes. I would also grow the hard slices that need multi-step planning and scale the tool catalogs with near-duplicate APIs to stress disambiguation. Adding a measured slice with live sandboxed execution would surface latency and permission errors. And I would triangulate the model-based judges with stratified human checks.
Would you take it beyond English and text as well?
Yes, multilingual and multimodal tool use would broaden coverage and reveal new grounding issues. Those additions would also make the benchmark more representative of how agents are used in practice.
Great. Time for the takeaway. What should builders remember?
Plan for errors around tool selection, argument filling, and chaining. Encourage clarification before action when the goal is fuzzy. Keep your tool schemas clean, discoverable, and well-documented. And evaluate turn by turn so you can spot the exact moment your agent drifts off course.
Clear and practical. Thanks, Daniel.
Thank you, Lena. This has been AI Podcast. If you're working on tool using agents, Confetti gives you a realistic yardstick and a clear picture of what still needs work. Until next time.